So it's day 10 now. I'm at Blue Water State Park in western New Mexico. The literature that you get when you first come into a state park like this, the literature here said that the elevation of the park is 7,500 feet. My phone, which has an altimeter, says that it's about 7,350 feet or so. It's probably somewhere in the middle. 7,500 feet is probably the peak elevation here. On my way here, I had no idea I was rising in elevation. I mean, I don't know the elevation of Oklahoma. I'll put it down right here. Or Texas, down here as well. And traveling here, through New Mexico, the terrain definitely changed, as I mentioned in a previous video. Like a dimmer switch, as I was saying. But my body or bike did not notice the change in elevation. A couple weeks before I left for this trip, I test rode a 2018 Heritage Softail. And I told the salesperson about this ride. And we jib-jabbing about how crazy it is to do this ride on a bike like that, and how I should be buying the Heritage to do the ride. And I mentioned to him all the themes that I've been talking about in this entire series. The love of riding this bike, the challenge of it, learning from it, all those I was telling him about. And he was saying how I should remap my EFI because of the elevation. It would affect the fuel management of my bike. And when he said that, I thought, oh, maybe. And I even said, I didn't realize that, or I didn't even think about that, which was true at the time. But then I later thought, maybe somebody smarter than me can explain that to me. I can see needing to do something if you have a carbureted system. And maybe it would be affected with the EFI. I just don't have that technical knowledge. Though, I'm getting a lot of decel pop on my bike. Now, I've learned a lot about wrenching on this bike, but one of my goals is to figure out exactly how that Vance & Hines FP3 works and exactly what the numbers mean when remapping. And I'll do that obviously when I get back. I'll probably be a winter project where I learn all about it. So to get rid of that diesel pop, but that'll be a future video. But during the ride, like I said, my body or bike was not impacted by the change in elevation. My Rosinati handled the change in elevation just fine. In fact, I felt like, and maybe it's just me pushing this bike to the limits, but I felt like this bike got a personality. I was passing semi-trucks on I-40, windy I-40, on curvy valley and mountain passes at 85 miles an hour, no trouble. And a lot of that has to do with my skill greatly improving. 6 months ago, I don't think I would have been able to do this. I wouldn't have had the nerve. I wouldn't have had the abilities, the skill set. That's the wonderful thing about motorcycling. Not only does it give you confidence the more you ride, but that confidence really blends into other facets of your life. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm sure some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, because it's mountainous desert, in the desert, it's warm during the day, cold during the night. And warm during the day, yesterday it was a comfortable 70-ish degrees here. Today it's probably gonna be more like low to mid 80s, but it gets very cold at night. So last night it was predicted to be 38 degrees. I woke up at about 6:30 this morning and I looked at the temperature, it was 37 degrees. So obviously I brought gear to stay warm. I got my buff, got my winter cap, I got thicker socks. Some of my winter videos you can hear me talking about wearing cycling tights below my riding pants to keep warm. And I said in those videos, don't knock it till you try it. It's more flexible than thermal underwear. It absorbs water in case you get a little bit too warm. So being in mountainous desert like this is just a different set of rules to live by. I mean, not just with the bike, but also just being in this environment and camping especially. Right now I'm in a fairly developed campground. I got electricity, I've got water, so I don't have to worry too much about that. But on this trip, I will be camping in dispersed camping in a national forest. For the bike, it's important because, hang on, I gotta show you something. So in urban environments, with our tires, we have to worry about hunks of metal, nails, all that crap that can pop holes in our tires. So what I've got here is a cactus thorn, and I found this stuck in my Bridgestone Battle Cruise H50s. Now I went to school out in Arizona when I was in my 20s, and I did a lot of mountain biking, and these little guys put holes in my tires, to my chagrin, a lot. I found this stuck in my front tire. There was no issues, I just pulled it out. I mean, thank goodness the Bridgestones are pretty good that way. Anything bigger than this, you might have some concerns. I mean, it's plant-based, but this thing is rock hard. I saw it and I knew exactly what it was from mountain biking, and was pretty worried about it. But there was no issue, and I just pulled it out and all was fine. The other concern, obviously, is the extreme temperatures that you experience. Really hot during the day, really cold at night. Let's talk about the day at first, because that's the most obvious one. You're gonna need water. If you're in an area like this where it's fairly developed, I've got a water supply 100 yards from me, showers and restrooms, the whole works. But if you're traveling on the motorcycle and there's a long distance between service stations or anything available to you, which isn't the case in a lot of parts of New Mexico and Arizona, if you want to get out into some of the more remote areas, you need to carry water with you. So you need to plan for that. So I'll actually probably carry some water with me on my next journey. I mean, obviously, you need to protect your skin, your eyes, and all that. So sunglasses and sunscreen and all that. But what people don't really think about is the cold. The extremes in temperatures is so great. I mean, let's say it was 70 degrees yesterday. I mean, it dropped nearly 35 degrees overnight. And the reason is, in the desert, there's no water droplets in the atmosphere to retain heat like there is in the Midwest or out east or anywhere that there's a temperate climate. When you're in the desert like this, it just gets so dramatically cold at night. I have an Instagram photo of me packing up my bike with this cap on, and the caption is, "There's no chill like a desert morning chill." And that's really true, because those mornings in the desert are really cold because of the extremes. You know, if the temperature changes gradually, your brain and body is not going to notice it as much. But when it's those extremes, it really notices it. So at night, I've got my cycling tights on. I've got my warm socks on still. My sleeping bag allows me to mummify myself. So the only thing that's sticking out is my face. I'm wearing the winter cap while I'm sleeping. I'm wearing the buff while I'm sleeping. In my trail building days, years ago, I had an old trick where I'd take an Nalgene bottle, I'd heat up water in it, toss it in my sleeping bag with me during the night. That would keep me warm for at least a couple hours, depending on how cold the ambient temperature was. It's starting to warm up now. The sun's out, and it's much warmer than it was an hour or so ago, where I really needed these. And while I was sleeping, I have my fly racing, battery-operated heating motorcycle gloves on. These things, I've done an initial review of them, of first thoughts, and then I did a full review of these. But boy, these, off the motorcycle last night while I was sleeping, these things kept me so warm. And they lasted for as long as I needed them to. Kept it on low and lasted about 6 hours, and I'll charge them again today, because I'll probably need them again tonight. The other thing out here is there is not as many developed roads like there is in the Midwest. Like in Wisconsin, in the Driftless region, I could ride all over. There is paved road. A lot of it's chip sealed, but despite how much I dislike chip seal, it's still paved after the chip is set. Out here, there's I-40, and then there's a few side roads that are paved. And I'm talking away from the urban environments. But a lot of the roads are not paved. Out here, there's limestone called Moenkopi limestone, and it has this orange color. And from that, there's this sand and dirt and mud that's orange as well. So there's a lot of dirt roads out here that are this orange color. On my Harley R883, am I going to be able to stray from some of those main roads a whole lot to get to some of the dispersed camping that I want to do? Probably not too far, especially since a lot of them are technical, challenging, uphill forest roads that I used to love to ride my mountain bike up. Honestly though, it'd be fun to rent a mountain bike and do that. But so what's on my agenda today? Today's kind of an off day. Probably ride Rosanati into a town that's 25 miles away so I can get some more food. All I have right now is oatmeal bagels and peanut butter and coffee. I mean, that'll be fine. It's not what I want to eat all day though. So I'll probably go into town, get some fuel. But today's gonna be a relaxing day. I'm gonna spend some time here. There's a hiking trail over there and a dam. I'm gonna do a little bit of hiking just to stretch my legs a bit. And I'm gonna try and do some editing today too. I haven't been able to do a whole lot of editing while on this trip. So that's the plan today. Maybe I'll have you tag along with me on that hiking trip and maybe just show you a little bit more of my day.